I'm Amy Goodman. Tech billionaire Elon Musk posted a poll early this morning on X asking, quote, America should liberate the people of Britain from their tyrannical government, yes or no? The question was part of a series of misinformation-filled posts on Musk's X social media platform that led the New York Times to report Musk, quote, appears intent on exercising the same influence in European countries that he did during the American presidential election, unquote. Over the past few days, Musk lashed out at the UK's Labour government, also trashed a UK politician he'd formerly backed, the anti-immigrant populist Nigel Farage, with the far-right Reform UK party. Musk's change of heart came after Farage refused to support the release from prison of far-right anti-immigrant Islamophobic activist Tommy Robinson. Meanwhile, Musk also falsely accused UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer of failing to prosecute child rapists and supported a post on X that urged King Charles to dissolve the British Parliament and call elections to remove the Labour government. This comes after Elon Musk also backed Germany's far-right anti-immigrant party, AfD, for next month's elections and is set to host a live discussion on X with its candidate for chancellor. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz responded to Musk's endorsement, saying, quote, I don't believe in courting Mr. Musk's favor. I'm happy to leave that to others. The rule is don't feed the troll, he said. Meanwhile, here in the United States, the richest man in the world, that's Elon Musk, donated more than $250 million to President-elect Trump's campaign. He's now shaping policy for the incoming administration. And it's believed he's made, since the election, over $200 billion. Musk attended a New Year's Eve gala at Mar-a-Lago alongside Trump and has joined him on a number of calls with foreign leaders. Musk will co-head Trump's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Last month, Musk played a key role in pushing Republican lawmakers to kill a short-term government spending deal at the last minute. Musk also got Trump's support for backing H-1B visas for highly skilled workers, despite opposition from Trump's anti-immigrant base. Meanwhile, on Friday, the Pulitzer Prize-winning political cartoonist Ann Talnes quit the Washington Post after her editors rejected a cartoon depicting billionaires genuflecting to President-elect Trump. She says it was the first time since she began working at the Post in 2008 she had a cartoon killed because of who or what she chose to aim her pen at. A draft of the cartoon depicts big tech owners kneeling at Trump's feet, ordering up sacks of cash, among them Amazon founder and Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos. Just 2 months ago, the Post featured Ann Talnes in a video celebrating her work.
I mean, just look at all the autocrats that hate editorial cartoonists. I mean, and not in this country, hopefully, but in, a lot of my colleagues overseas are thrown in jail for doing cartoons about powerful people. A lot of people don't realize that, we're journalists. We're opinion journalists, but we are journalists. And that is our job as editorial cartoonists, to bring up sometimes uncomfortable truths.
On Friday, Ann Talnes published an online post titled, Why I'm Quitting the Washington Post, in which she writes, quote, I will not stop holding truth to power through my cartooning because, as they say, democracy dies in darkness. Of course, she is citing the Washington Post's motto. This comes after Jeff Bezos prevented the Washington Post from endorsing Kamala Harris for president. And as Amazon's Prime Video service announced it's acquired exclusive licensing rights to a new behind-the-scenes documentary about First Lady Melania Trump, Amazon also plans to donate $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund and said it would stream the event on Prime Video as a separate in-kind donation worth another $1 million. For more, we spend the rest of the hour with a person who's documented the power of big tech billionaires and the new tech, specifically, among others, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world. Quinn Slobodian's professor of international history at Boston University. His latest book is Crack Up Capitalism, Market Radicals, and the Dream of a World Without Democracy. He's written several pieces for the New Statesman on Elon Musk, including one headlined Elon Musk's Death Drive. Slobodian also recently contributed to the New York Review of Books' running symposium about the re-election of Donald Trump, The Return of Trump 2. He's joining us from Boston, just back from the American Historical Association annual gathering here in New York. Professor Slobodian, welcome to Democracy Now! The power of Elon Musk cannot be underestimated. From here in the United States, and we're going to talk about the Trump administration, well, many are calling him, of course, President Musk and Vice President Donald Trump, to the latest kerfuffle in Britain and his support for the AfD in Germany. If you can talk about the significance of all of this.
Yeah, it's a pretty extraordinary situation to find ourselves in, right? I mean, if you think back to 2017, there was a lot of concern and attention to the efforts of Steve Bannon to create a kind of transatlantic coalition of far-right actors and parties. Imagine now, here we are only a few years later, and there's a Bannon-like figure, but who also happens to be the wealthiest man in the world, overseeing some of the most profitable companies in the planet, who is leading that sort of effort to create a transatlantic coalition. So the stakes are much, much higher. They are being dealt with perhaps even less kind of care than someone like Bannon, which is an extraordinary thing to say. But Musk, I think, has entered this field of politics as a kind of scaled up version of his video game play, with no real thought to the kind of consequences of the disruptive effects that he's creating from here to Britain to Germany and beyond.
And let's talk specifically about the conversation we're having on this day, on January 6th, when the vice president, Kamala Harris, who presides over the Senate, will essentially certify her own loss. And this fourth anniversary of what took place January 6th, 2021.
Well, I think that, the January 6th is apropos for a couple reasons. One is kind of silly, but also meaningful, which is if you look at the character that Musk uses when he plays the game Diablo 4, which he describes as giving him life lessons and allowing him to see the Matrix, the guy kind of looks quite a bit like the QAnon shaman so well known from January 6th. So January 6th, in a way, kind of, I think, opened this new era in American politics where the kind of surreal, fringe, often online communities have sort of entered the world of sort of high politics and have scrambled the kind of coordinates of average rules of the game and the normal sort of protocols. I think that Musk is someone who is really a product of that kind of crossover effect, where building up a kind of huge online community, building up the sort of status as a global media influencer, has now the capacity to actually shatter existing coalitions, shatter existing standards of what normal politics is. And his connections now to people like Nigel Farage until recently, Tommy Robinson, the AfD, Giorgia Meloni, these are signs of kind of a willingness to shatter existing traditional party systems, to embrace disruption kind of for its own sake, and to really harness especially the power of the internet to make possible things that had been previously impossible. So to make certain forms of speech possible, to make certain forms of mobilization possible, and to make things like, the attempted coup d'etat in January 6th, something that could actually be followed through to its conclusion. And I think that, the horizon of what the kind of politics in real life that someone like Musk is aiming at is broadcast by him frequently on his own Twitter account. Most recently, for example, he celebrated Nayib Bukele, the leader in El Salvador, as having done something that has happened in El Salvador and will happen and must happen in the United States, which in El Salvador has been to imprison 2% of the adult population as an absolutely draconian way of cracking down on crime. So this vision of sort of authoritarian strongman on politics, sort of gloves off, mass incarceration, crackdowns on the one hand, and then a deregulatory kind of unleashing of the free market on the other hand, is produced this kind of curious combination of, on the one hand, Elon Musk posting Milton Friedman memes all the time. On the other hand, scaremongering about the quote-unquote genocidal rape tactics of non-white immigrants in the UK. So he's produced this sort of surreal effect, I think, of sort of the strong state and the free market turning the sort of Thatcherist vision, grafting it onto all kinds of online aesthetics and kind of video game dynamics in ways that have really, I think, blindsided for good reasons, sort of mainstream normal politicians like Olaf Scholz, Keir Starmer, Biden, Harris, who don't know how to deal with this kind of chaotic energy, which unfortunately has a huge amount of legitimacy behind it. Not only his multi-million number followers on social media, but keep in mind, I mean, he oversees Tesla, which is a car company that is worth more than all the other car companies in the world combined, whose valuation has gone vertical since Trump's election, whose stocks are held in the portfolios of many, many, many Democrats who might otherwise find Musk as a person and his politics objectionable. So he is a kind of a locomotive who has sort of attached himself to the very dynamics of both the online sort of meme market, but also the very much offline stock market in ways that makes him hard to reckon with and hard to actually oppose.